I've always wondered why the Roman Empire is barely talked about in relationship to Jesus, especially with his death and resurrection. Context is always important, and you simply can't have Jesus crucified if he didn't commit treason against the Roman Empire. Even more so, much of the terminology that we use is very similar to the Roman Empire. For instance, the terms Son of God and even the title of Lord referred to Caesar, and the word kingdom referred to the Roman Empire. But they weren't in the same stratosphere when it came to being a kingdom worthy of God. This kingdom was so powerful and successful at quashing anyone who stood in their way for so long that they actually succeeded in redefining the meaning of peace. Specifically, Jesus lived during a period known as the Pax Romana, or the Peace of Rome, which was defined specifically as peace through victory, resulting in violence, destruction, and death. Furthermore, the dominance of the Roman Empire was so prevalent that many Jews would come to believe that the only way to achieve peace was by overthrowing the Romans under the leadership of a Messiah. As a result, the Jews' desperate need to fight back would eventually cause them to forget the true meaning of peace. Jesus, however, comes into the fold talking about the kingdom of God. Although we are used to hearing that term, in the first century there was only one kingdom. So his use of the kingdom of God implied that there was something wrong with the Roman Empire. Rather than resorting to violence in order to achieve peace, Jesus talks about loving your enemies and praying for those who persecute you. Rather than fighting back, he says to turn the other cheek. Rather than exalting the wealthy and powerful like the Romans, Jesus exalts the poor. As a result, Jesus reminds those around him the true meaning of peace through nonviolence. Yet it was probably something all had known in their heart of hearts. These two kingdoms, therefore, were at odds with each other, and it would hit its climax when Jesus turned the tables at the temple in Jerusalem as a way of questioning the temple priests and their being inextricably linked to the Roman Empire. As a result, Jesus gets a punishment given to those who commit treason against Rome, i.e. crucifixion. This would in theory quash anything that Jesus said when it comes to questioning the status quo. But then Jesus appears, first to Mary Magdalene, followed by his disciples. And the movement which the Romans tried to stop would spread. And years later, it would eventually lead to the conversion of Paul, who in turn would spread Christianity like wildfire. The resurrection of Jesus was absolutely central for him because it proved that the Romans were in the wrong and Jesus in the right. After all, if the Romans were right to crucify him, then he wouldn't have been resurrected. As a result, Paul saw Jesus' resurrection as God's yes to Jesus and no to the Romans in everything they stood for. Jesus is Lord, Caesar is not. This is clearly a message that rings true over 2,000 years later. We find people putting their faith in the Caesars of this world. Today we find that fame and fortune are at the forefront of our society. The need for power and how it corrupts people still exists today. Whether physical or even through words that permeate on social media, responding with violence to make the aggressor feel at peace is more prevalent than ever. Yet despite these Caesars being the lords of this world, our faith has always gone counter to what the world says. Fame, fortune, power, aggression, and other sins of this world are what Jesus died for. Although we believe that Jesus died for the sins of the world, he also died because of the sins of the world. The sins of the Roman Empire that Jesus called into question caused him to be charged with treason and then sentenced to death. In the same way, we also will be persecuted for our beliefs when they run counter to the world. The way we respond to our Christian faith every day should bring us to the same conclusion that Paul did. Jesus is Lord. Caesar is not.